The UESS Vanguard limped back into Earth orbit 3 weeks after the war began. Sarah Chen stood on her bridge and looked at her homeworld through the viewing port. From space, the scars of battle were visible. Blackened craters where cities had stood. Debris fields where orbital platforms had defended against the Council fleet. But Earth was still there. Still spinning, still alive. "Captain, we're being hailed by Earth Defense Command," her communications officer reported. "Put them through." Admiral Okoro's face appeared on the screen. He looked older than Sarah remembered, his hair grayer, his face more lined. War-age people faster than time ever could. Behind him, she could see the operations center rebuilding itself. Crews working around the clock to restore what the Council had destroyed. "Welcome home, Captain Chen," Okoro said. "You and your fleet accomplished the mission beyond expectations. 3 Council founding species neutralized, their military capability destroyed, and minimal civilian casualties on our part." "Thank you, sir," Sarah replied. But the words felt hollow. She had destroyed 3 civilizations. Yes, they had attacked Earth first. Yes, they had tried to exterminate humanity, but that didn't change what she had done. "The Council is dissolving as we speak," Okoro continued. 40 species have retreated to their homeworlds. "They're scared, Captain, terrified of what humanity might do next. We have incoming communications from hundreds of alien governments. Some want peace treaties. Others want non-aggression pacts. A few are asking if we plan to conquer them." Sarah felt tired. So tired. "What do we tell them?" "We tell them the truth," Okoro said. "Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We never did. We just want to exist without fear of extinction. If they leave us alone, we'll leave them alone. If they threaten us again, they'll get the same treatment the founding species received. Will they believe us? After what we did to Prima, Sethrak, and Thal Prime? Yes, they'll believe us. Fear is a powerful teacher." The transmission ended and Sarah sat back in her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly, focused on their tasks. They were professionals. They had done their jobs, but she could see it in their eyes. The same thing she felt. Doubt, guilt, uncertainty about what they had become. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Valorian government," the communications officer said. "They're asking to speak with you directly." Sarah hesitated. What could she possibly say to them? "Sorry I destroyed your military? Sorry your people live in fear now? Put them through." The screen showed an elderly Valorian female with scales that had lost their luster. She looked broken, defeated. "Captain Chen, I am Council Leader Mira. I was the one who voted for your species quarantine." "I know who you are," Sarah said coldly. "I want you to know that I thought I was doing the right thing." Mira continued. "We studied human history. Your wars, your violence, the way you treat your own kind. We were afraid of what you might become if given access to the galaxy, so you tried to cage us. Yes, and now my world lies defenseless because of that decision. My people huddle in fear, waiting for your ships to return and finish what you started." Mira's voice cracked. "I am asking you, one leader to another, what are your intentions? Will you conquer us, enslave us, exterminate us?" Sarah looked at the broken alien leader and felt her anger drain away. Mira wasn't a monster. She was just afraid. Afraid of the unknown, afraid of change, afraid that humanity's capacity for violence would spread to the stars. And she had been right to be afraid. Because humanity had spread that violence, just not in the way Mira expected. "Council Leader Mira, humanity doesn't want to conquer anyone," Sarah said. "We never did. We joined the Council hoping to learn and share and grow together. You betrayed that hope. You tried to destroy us, so we showed you what happens when you push humanity too far." She leaned forward. "But we're not going to finish the job. We're not going to kill your people or occupy your world. We're going to leave you alive to rebuild. And every time you look at your empty shipyards and ruined defenses, you'll remember this lesson. Leave humanity alone." Mira's eyes filled with tears. "How do we trust you? How do we know you won't attack us again?" "The same way we're supposed to trust you," Sarah replied. "You can't know. You can only hope. Welcome to how humanity has felt for the past 15 years. The transmission ended. Sarah stood up and walked to the viewing port. Earth hung below her, beautiful and fragile. How many people had died defending it? How many more would die in the future because of what humanity had become? A week later, representatives from 20 different species arrived at Earth orbit. They came in small ships, unarmed, showing every sign of peaceful intent. They wanted to talk, to negotiate, to find a way forward that didn't end in more war. Admiral Okoro met with them in a newly constructed space station. Sarah attended as well, along with other human military leaders and Earth's civilian government. The meeting room was tense, filled with species that had been allies just weeks ago. An ambassador from the Kryn swarm spoke first. "Humanity, we must address what has happened. The Council's actions were wrong. We acknowledge this. But your response was disproportionate. You destroyed 3 civilizations." "No," Okoro said calmly. "We destroyed 3 militaries. The civilizations still exist. Their people are alive. Their culture's intact. We could have exterminated them. We chose not to. That restraint should tell you everything you need to know about humanity's intentions. But you still attacked civilian infrastructure," a Thal delegate protested. "No, we attacked military infrastructure," Sarah corrected. "Shipyards that built warships. Factories that produced weapons. Defense platforms designed to kill. Not hospitals. Not schools. Not homes. We were surgical in our strikes." "And the sabotage?" a Sethrak representative asked. "You had agents embedded in our societies for 15 years. You destroyed power grids, communications networks, transportation systems. Millions suffered because of those actions." "Millions suffered when you bombed Earth," Okoro shot back. "The difference is we didn't target civilians. We targeted infrastructure. Your people experienced blackouts and communication failures. Our people experienced nuclear fire and death. Don't lecture us about proportional response." The room fell silent. The alien delegates looked at each other, uncertain how to proceed. Finally, a representative from a smaller species called the Meln spoke up. "What does humanity want? What will it take for there to be peace?" Okoro stood up. "We want what we've always wanted. To be left alone to live our lives in peace. We want borders that are respected. We want the right to defend ourselves without being called aggressive. We want to trade and share knowledge with species that treat us as equals, not as threats to be managed." He looked at each delegate. "But most importantly, we want every species in this galaxy to understand one simple fact. We will never be victims again. Try to cage us and we'll break free. Try to destroy us and we'll destroy you first. That's not a threat. That's a promise. And if we agree to these terms?" the Kryn ambassador asked. "Will humanity join a new council? A new alliance? Only if it's truly equal," Sarah said. "No founding species. No elder races with special privileges. Every species gets one vote, regardless of how old their civilization is or how many worlds they control. And humanity gets veto power over any decision that affects our territory or our people," the delegates murmured among themselves. Finally, 20 species agreed to the terms. A new alliance formed, one built not on trust but on mutual respect and fear. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the peaceful utopia humanity had dreamed of when they first joined the council. But it was stable. 2 months after the war, Sarah Chen returned to the Kuiper Belt, to Outpost Gehenna. The facility was still operational, still hidden from sensors. The war fleet sat in its hangar bays, dark and quiet. Director Park met her at the entrance. "Captain Chen, I didn't expect to see you again." "I came to check on something," Sarah said. She walked through the facility until she reached the main hangar. The ships that had destroyed 3 civilizations hung in the darkness like sleeping monsters. "Are we keeping them active?" "Admiral Okoro's orders," Park replied. "The war fleet stays operational." "Just in case," Sarah nodded. It made sense. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity, but fear faded with time. Eventually, some species might forget the lesson, might decide to test Earth's defenses again. The war fleet would ensure they remembered, but Sarah wondered if keeping these weapons ready meant humanity would always be looking for a reason to use them. If they would become the very thing the Council had feared, a violent, aggressive species that solved problems with force. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Sarah asked. Park was quiet for a long moment. "I think we did the only thing we could do and survive. Whether that makes it right is a question for philosophers, not soldiers." Sarah looked at the dark ships one more time, then turned away. She had a fleet to command, a species to protect, and a future to build. The war was over. Humanity had won. But the real question wasn't whether they could fight. It was whether they could remember how to be human after becoming monsters. Earth continued to spin beneath the stars. The scars of war would heal with time. The dead would be mourned and remembered, and humanity would move forward stronger and more prepared than ever before. The galaxy had Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UESS Vanguard and watched the stars through the massive viewing port. Proxima Station floated nearby, a giant wheel of metal and light spinning slowly in the darkness of space. 15 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. 15 years of peace and cooperation. 15 years of building a future among the stars. Sarah smiled as she thought about how far humans had come. Earth's engineers had fixed problems that Council species struggled with for centuries. Human doctors had cured diseases that killed millions across dozens of worlds. Human soldiers had fought alongside alien warriors to protect innocent lives from raiders and pirates. The Council had welcomed humanity with open arms. Or so it seemed. "Captain, we're receiving strange signals from our listening post," Lieutenant Marcus Webb said from his station. His dark face showed confusion as he stared at his screens. "Encrypted transmissions. Multiple sources. They're all flagged as urgent." Sarah walked over to his console. "Play them." The first message made her blood run cold. A human intelligence officer spoke quickly, his voice tight with fear. "Unknown ships gathering at the Valorian homeworld. Hundreds of them. Council military vessels from every major species. They're mobilizing for something big." Another message followed. "Sethrak fleets moving toward human trade routes. No explanation given. They're not responding to our requests for information." Then another. "Emergency meeting called by the Council. All human delegates excluded." This has never happened before. Sarah felt her stomach twist into knots. Something was very wrong. She opened her mouth to order a tactical alert when every light on the station suddenly changed to red. "Captain, the station's shields just activated," Webb shouted. "We're trapped inside the perimeter. All human ships are locked in." Sarah's hand moved to the communications console. "This is Captain Chen to all human vessels. Battle stations. This is not a drill." The main view screen flickered to life. The face of High Chancellor Vorn appeared, his blue reptilian features cold and emotionless. Behind him stood representatives from every major council species. Sarah recognized them all. She had shared meals with some of them, had laughed at their jokes, had trusted them. "Attention all human vessels," Vorn said, his voice carrying across every frequency. "The Galactic Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding the human species. After careful consideration and extensive debate, we have determined that humanity poses an existential threat to galactic stability." Sarah felt like someone had punched her in the gut. "What? That's insane!" But Vorn continued as if he couldn't hear her. "Human genetic adaptability combined with your rapid technological advancement presents an unacceptable risk. Your aggressive nature and historical tendency toward violence cannot be ignored. Therefore, effective immediately, humanity is hereby quarantined to the Sol system. All humans currently outside this zone have 48 hours to return. Any who refuse will be classified as outlaws and dealt with accordingly." The screen went dark. For 3 seconds, nobody on the bridge moved. Nobody spoke. The silence felt heavy, crushing. Then chaos erupted. "Multiple contacts jumping in," Webb screamed. "Council warships. Dozens of them. No, hundreds. They're surrounding the station." Sarah's mind raced. 70 human ships trapped inside a kill box. 300 council vessels outside, weapons charging. This wasn't an arrest. This was an execution. "All ships, emergency jump procedures." Sarah barked into the communications array. "Scatter pattern Delta, jump anywhere, just get out." "Captain, we need 30 seconds to charge the slipspace drive," her pilot called out. "We don't have 30 seconds, Sarah said, watching the council fleet move into attack formation. She was right. The first volley of plasma fire tore through the human formations, before most ships could raise their shields. The destroyer UESS Triumph exploded in a ball of white-hot fire. The frigate Valiant broke apart as a Sethrak railgun round punched through its hull. "Return fire," Sarah ordered. "Everything we have." The Vanguard's cannons roared to life. Human missiles streaked across the darkness, slamming into Council shields. But the enemy had overwhelming numbers and firepower. For every Council ship that took damage, 2 more moved in to replace it. Sarah watched her fleet die. Ships she had trained with, captains she had served beside, crews full of people with families waiting at home. They disappeared from her tactical display one by one, each blinking dot representing hundreds of lives snuffed out in an instant. "Slipspace drive charged," the pilot yelled. "Jump," Sarah commanded. "Now!" Reality twisted. The stars stretched into lines. The Vanguard lurched sideways as it tore a hole in space and dived through. 5 other ships followed, appearing on her scanner as they emerged into normal space 3 light-years away. 6 ships out of 70. Sarah slumped into her command chair. Her hands were shaking. Around her, the bridge crew sat in stunned silence. Some were crying. Others just stared at empty screens, unable to process what had just happened. "Captain," Webb said quietly, "we're receiving transmissions from the other survivors. They're asking for orders." Orders? Sarah almost laughed. What orders could she give? Their fleet was destroyed. Their people were scattered, and Earth had no idea that their trusted allies had just become their executioners. "We need to warn Earth," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the rage burning in her chest. "The Council will send their containment armada to Sol. They'll demand Earth surrender. And Earth still thinks the Council are our friends." "We'll never make it in time," her navigator said. "They'll beat us there by days. Then we find another way to slow them down," Sarah replied. She stood up, straightening her uniform. "But first we make a stop. There's a facility in the Kuiper Belt, one that doesn't exist in any official database." Webb looked at her with confusion. "What facility?" Sarah pulled up a star chart and entered a classified code. A location appeared marked only with a single word: Gehenna. "When humanity joined the Council, we wanted to believe in peace," Sarah explained. "But Earth's leaders remembered our history. They remembered how many times humanity had been betrayed by those we trusted. So they asked themselves one question: what if we're wrong about them?" The bridge crew leaned forward, listening. "They built an insurance policy," Sarah continued. "A secret shipyard in the deepest part of our solar system. They told no one except a select few officers. I'm one of them." "What's at this facility?" Webb asked. Sarah's expression hardened. Her eyes held a cold fury that made her crew shiver. "The means to make the Council regret they ever heard the name humanity." The Vanguard turned away from Council space and set course for Earth. Behind them, at Proxima Station, Council workers were already cleaning up the debris. The battle had been so one-sided that some of them joked about it. They laughed about how the humans had barely fought back. None of them knew they had just started a war. None of them understood what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge of extinction. They would learn soon enough. The Council had made a terrible mistake. They had shown humanity that the galaxy was not a safe place. That peace was an illusion. That survival required strength and the will to use it. Captain Sarah Chen looked at the stars ahead and made a silent promise to every human who died at Proxima Station. The Council wanted to see if humanity was dangerous. They were about to find out just how dangerous a cornered animal could be. The Council armada dropped out of slipspace at the edge of the Sol system like a swarm of metal locusts. 1,000 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Their shields glowed with power. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. This was not a battle force. This was an overwhelming show of strength, meant to break humanity's spirit before a single shot was fired. High Chancellor Vorn stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Justice and looked at the small blue planet in the distance. Earth. Such a tiny world to cause so much trouble. He activated the communication array, ready to deliver his ultimatum. "People of Earth, you have 48 hours to surrender all military assets and submit to Council authority. Resistance is futile." The response came immediately, but it was not what Vorn expected. "Council Fleet, this is Admiral James Okoro, Earth Defense Command. Your terms are rejected. Leave our system now or face the consequences." Vorn's scaled face twisted into something like a smile. "Consequences? From these primitives? Admiral, you have perhaps 100 ships. We have 1,000. Your defenses cannot stand against us. I urge you to reconsider for the sake of your people." "You're right," Okoro replied. "We don't have 100 ships." Vorn felt a moment of satisfaction. Finally, these humans were seeing reason. "We have 1,053. The tactical display exploded with contacts. Ships emerged from behind asteroids, from the rings of Saturn, from beneath the ice of Europa. They had been hiding, waiting, scattered throughout the solar system like seeds waiting for spring. Vorn stared at the screen in disbelief. "Impossible. Our intelligence report said they only had 100 vessels under construction." His second-in-command, a Thal officer with 4 arms, checked the data twice. "The readings are confirmed, Chancellor. Over 1,000 human warships are moving to intercept us." "How?" Vorn demanded. How did they build so many so quickly? He didn't understand humanity. The Council species took decades to construct a single warship because they built them carefully, peacefully, with long breaks for their crews to rest. Humans didn't rest. Humans worked in shifts around the clock, pushing their bodies to the limit. Human factories ran day and night, churning out weapons and ships with an efficiency that bordered on obsession. The Council had mistaken humanity's friendliness for weakness. They had confused patience with inability. They were about to learn the truth. The first wave of human ships slammed into the Council's forward positions. The battle was nothing like what Vorn expected. Human vessels didn't form neat defensive lines. They swarmed like angry wasps, attacking from every angle at once. They fired at point-blank range where shields were weakest. They rammed damaged ships, sacrificing themselves to take out larger targets. A human destroyer appeared on Vorn's view screen, so close he could see the scoring on its hull. It fired everything it had directly into the Eternal Justice's shield generator. The shields flickered and died. Before they could recharge, 3 more human ships converged on the flagship, their cannons blazing. "Get us out of here," Vorn screamed. The battle raged for 2 weeks. Every day the Council pushed deeper into the Sol system. Every day, humans made them pay for every kilometer in blood and metal. The space around Earth became a graveyard of shattered vessels from both sides. Council commanders sent reports back to their homeworlds describing the humans with fear and confusion. These were not the cooperative scientists and friendly diplomats they had known. These were warriors who fought with a savagery that terrified species who had forgotten what real war looked like. Human boarding parties were the worst. When Council ships were crippled, humans didn't just destroy them. They boarded them. Human marines in heavy armor stormed through corridors with weapons that fired solid projectiles instead of energy beams. When their guns ran out of ammunition, they used knives. When the knives broke, they used their fists. A Sethrak captain survived a boarding action and sent a trembling report to the fleet command. "They don't stop. We shot one of them 6 times and he kept coming. They're not soldiers, they're demons." But numbers eventually won. The Council had more ships, more resources, more firepower. Earth's orbital defense platforms fell one by one. Human ships retreated to make final stands around their homeworld. Then the bombardment began. Orbital strikes hit military bases across the planet. Sydney disappeared in nuclear fire. Mumbai became a crater. São Paulo burned. Millions of civilians died in minutes as precision weapons turned cities into ash. Earth's government broadcast a message on all channels. "We surrender. Please stop. We surrender." The bombardment ceased. Council ships held their positions, weapons still charged and ready. High Chancellor Vorn's face appeared on every screen on Earth. "You have made the wise choice. As terms of your surrender, all military leadership will be executed for crimes against galactic peace. Your remaining fleet will be dismantled. Earth will be placed under Council oversight. You have 24 hours to comply." Admiral Okoro appeared in the broadcast, his dark face calm despite the destruction around him. "Understood, Chancellor. We will comply with all terms. I will transmit the codes for our remaining defense systems within the hour." Vorn nodded with satisfaction. Another rebellious species brought to heel. The galaxy would remain stable and orderly under Council guidance. Deep in the Pacific Ocean, in a bunker that survived the bombardment, Okoro ended the transmission. His senior staff gathered around him, their faces grim. "Did the ghost signal transmit?" Okoro asked. His communications officer nodded. "Every human ship, every human station, every human settlement received it. The sleeper agents are activated, and Captain Chen, she reached Gehenna 3 days ago. The Warfleet is preparing to launch." Okoro stood and walked to a wall display showing Earth from orbit. Smoke rose from a dozen cities. His home was burning. His people were dying. And the Council thought they had won. 15 years, Okoro said quietly. "We spent 15 years placing our people throughout Council. Space, scientists, engineers, teachers, diplomats. Everyone thought they were there to learn and share knowledge." He turned to face his staff. "They were there to sabotage every critical system the Council depends on. And in 5 minutes, they're going to do exactly that." Across Council space, the sabotage began. On 40 worlds, power grids failed simultaneously. Communications arrays broadcast nothing but static. Slip space navigation beacons went offline, stranding ships between stars. The weapon factories that humanity had helped modernize locked down completely or destroyed themselves. The Council species panicked. What was happening? Was it a system-wide failure? A virus, an attack? They got their answer when a new transmission reached the Council Armada at Earth. Not from the planet's government, from deep space, from a ship that shouldn't exist. Admiral Okoro's face filled the screen, but he was no longer on Earth. He stood on the bridge of a massive warship, its bridge lit with red emergency lighting. Behind him, crew members moved with military precision. High Chancellor Vorn, Okoro said, his voice cold as ice. You came to our home. You killed our people. You burned our cities. You thought we would kneel. Vorn's scales turned pale. What is this? Where are you? Okoro smiled, but there was no warmth in it, only fury. You should have left us alone. The tactical displays on Council ships lit up with new contacts. A fleet of human warships emerged from slipspace. But these were different from anything seen before. They were larger, darker, covered in weapons that made seasoned military officers feel sick just looking at them. The Council's containment armada suddenly found itself surrounded by Earth's war fleet. Let me tell you, what's going to happen, Okoro continued. You're going to leave our system. You're going to run home, and then we're going to follow you and show the galaxy what happens when you try to exterminate humanity. The Battle of Terra began with a fury that shook the stars themselves. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the hangar bay of Outpost Gehenna and stared at the ships that Earth's leaders had hoped would never wake. They hung in the darkness like sleeping predators, black metal absorbing light instead of reflecting it. No markings, no registration numbers, nothing that would identify them as human or even indicate they came from a civilized species. These were not explorers. These were not defenders. These were weapons designed for a single purpose, total war. How many? Sarah asked the facility commander, a gray-haired woman named Director Park. 60 dreadnoughts, 300 hunter-killers, and the Apocalypse-class carriers. Park's voice was flat, emotionless. She had spent 20 years maintaining ships she prayed would never launch. Now that prayer had failed. Sarah walked toward the nearest dreadnought. Up close, it was even more terrifying. Weapons covered every surface, point defense systems, railguns, missile pods, and other things that made her stomach turn. Weapons banned by every council treaty. Weapons humanity had invented specifically to kill aliens. Why didn't we tell the council about this place? One of Sarah's officers asked. Because the council would have demanded we destroy it, Park replied. They would have called it aggressive, warmongering. They would have been right. These ships were designed to do terrible things. Sarah turned to face the young officer. Earth's leaders asked themselves a question when we first met the council. What if they turn on us? What if friendship is a lie? What if we need to fight for our survival? She gestured at the Dark Fleet. This is the answer to that question. The facility's main computer core activated as Sarah entered her authentication codes. Screens throughout the hangar blazed to life with tactical data, ship specifications, and deployment protocols. The AI that controlled Gehenna spoke with a calm, neutral voice. Welcome, Captain Chen. Analyzing current galactic situation. Confirming hostile action against humanity. Authorization confirmed. War protocols activated. Show me what we have, Sarah commanded. The display changed to show a map of Council space. Red markers indicated the positions of Council military assets. Blue markers showed human positions, but there were other markers too. Green ones. Hundreds of them scattered across 40 different worlds. What are those? Sarah asked. Human assets embedded in Council infrastructure, the AI replied. Scientists, engineers, diplomatic staff, and support personnel placed over the past 15 years. All have been activated per emergency protocols. Sarah felt her blood run cold. What do you mean, activated? Director Park stepped forward. When humanity joined the Council, we sent thousands of our people to help them, to learn from them, to build friendships. She paused. But every single one of them had a secondary mission. They were sleeper agents, and their job was to sabotage critical systems if humanity was ever betrayed. The screen showed real-time reports flooding in from across Council space. Power failures, communication breakdowns, navigation systems going dark, weapon production facilities shutting down. It was happening simultaneously on dozens of worlds. My God, Sarah whispered. We've been planning this for 15 years? Not planning for war, Park corrected. Planning for survival. There's a difference. Sarah looked at the reports again. Millions of Council citizens were probably experiencing blackouts right now. Billions would be affected as the cascading failures spread. Ships would be stranded. Fleets would be unable to coordinate. The Council's ability to make war was being systematically destroyed, and humans were doing it. "How long until we can launch the fleet?" Sarah asked. "All ships are fueled and armed. Crews are boarding now. We can launch in 6 hours." Sarah activated her communications console. "This is Captain Chen to Admiral Okoro. Gehenna fleet is operational and ready to deploy. Awaiting your orders." The response came immediately. Okoro's face appeared on screen and Sarah could see the rage burning in his eyes. Behind him, explosions lit up the sky. Earth was still burning. "Captain, the Council is pulling back from Earth. Your appearance scared them. But they haven't fled yet. They're regrouping, trying to figure out how many ships we have." "What are your orders, sir?" Okoro was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of a terrible decision. "For 15 years, we tried to be their friends. We helped them. We trusted them. And they repaid us by trying to wipe us out." He leaned closer to the camera. "I want you to take the war fleet and visit the homeworlds of every species that voted for our extinction. I want you to show them what humanity is capable of when we stop being civilized." Sarah felt ice in her veins. "Sir, you're talking about attacking their homeworlds. Billions of civilians live there. I know exactly what I'm talking about, Captain. I'm not asking you to kill civilians. I'm ordering you to destroy their military capability so completely that they can never threaten us again. Shipyards, weapons factories, defense platforms, orbital stations, everything that makes them strong. Turn it into scrap, and if they surrender, they had their chance to surrender when they asked us to join their council. They had their chance when we helped them for 15 years. They had their chance before they murdered millions of our people." Okoro's expression hardened. "No more chances. No more mercy. We're going to teach the galaxy a lesson it will never forget." Sarah understood. This wasn't about revenge, though revenge was part of it. This was about survival. If humanity showed weakness now, other species would try again. And again, until humans were extinct. The only way to guarantee Earth's future was to make the rest of the galaxy too terrified to ever attack them again. "Understood, Admiral. We'll carry out your orders." Sarah ended the transmission and turned to address her crew. Hundreds of men and women stood in the hangar waiting for orders. They were young and old from every nation on Earth, representing every culture humanity had to offer. They had joined the military hoping to explore the stars and make friends with aliens. Now they were being asked to become executioners. "Everyone listen up," Sarah called out. "In a few hours, we're going to jump into Council space and attack 3 homeworlds: the Valorian Prime, the Sethrak Collective Core World, the Thalascendancy Capital. These are the species that voted to exterminate us." Silence filled the hangar. "I won't lie to you. What we're about to do will make us the villains in a lot of history books. Future generations might look back and call us murderers, monsters, and maybe they'll be right." Sarah paused, looking at each face. "But if we don't do this, there won't be future generations. The Council will keep coming until humanity is extinct, so we're going to show them why that's a bad idea." A young pilot raised her hand. "Captain, are we going to kill civilians?" "No," Sarah said firmly. "We're going to destroy military targets only. But those worlds will lose their ability to defend themselves. They'll lose their fleets, their shipyards, their weapon production. They'll be helpless. And they'll know that humanity could have killed them all, but chose not to. That knowledge will be worse than death." Another officer spoke up. "What about the other Council species? The ones that didn't vote against us? They sat silent while we were condemned. They did nothing while we were attacked. They're complicit." Sarah walked toward her ship. "But we'll leave them alone if they don't interfere. This is about the 3 species that led the charge. They wanted to see if humanity was dangerous. We're going to show them exactly how dangerous we can be." The crews began boarding their ships. Pilots ran pre-flight checks. Weapons officers armed missiles and charged cannons. Engineers checked reactor cores and shield generators. In 6 hours, this peaceful facility that had sat dormant for 20 years would release a fleet designed for destruction. Sarah climbed aboard the Gehenna's Fury, the flagship of humanity's war fleet. She settled into the command chair and pulled up the tactical map. The distance to the Valorian homeworld was 12 light-years. Their slip space drives could cover that in 3 hours. 3 hours until humanity stopped being the victim and became the monster. Sarah activated the ship-wide communications. "All vessels, this is Captain Chen. In 6 hours, we launch. Our mission is clear. Our cause is just. The Council tried to exterminate us. We're going to make sure they never try again. She looked at the countdown timer on her screen. 6 hours until launch. 6 hours until the galaxy learned to fear humanity. 6 hours until nothing would ever be the same. The Valorian homeworld was called Prima, and it had never known war. For 3,000 years, the Valorians had lived in peace, protected by treaties and diplomacy. Their orbital defense platforms were old and poorly maintained. After all, who would dare attack the founding species of the Galactic Council? Defense Commander Zelak watched his sensors with confusion as unknown contacts appeared at the edge of the system. Hundreds of ships dropping out of slipspace in perfect formation. He ran the signatures through the database and felt his blood turn to ice when he saw the results. Human warships. This must be a mistake, Zelak muttered. The humans had been crushed at Earth, their fleet destroyed, their world bombed into submission. What were they doing here? He activated the communications array. Unidentified vessels, you are entering Valorian space without authorization. Identify yourselves immediately. The response came from a human woman with cold eyes and a voice like frozen steel. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We're here to deliver a message. I don't understand, Zelak said. Your fleet was destroyed. You surrendered. That was Earth's defensive fleet, Chen replied. This is our war fleet. The one we built just in case our new friends decided to stab us in the back. Turns out we were right to be paranoid. Zelak's hands moved across his console, activating the defense platforms. But nothing happened. The platform's status lights showed red across the board. Systems failure. All of them at once. Looking for your defenses? Chen asked. Human engineers helped design those systems, remember? We know exactly how they work. And more importantly, we know how to make them not work. You can't do this, Zelak protested. This is a civilian world. There are billions of people here. You should have thought about civilians before you bombed Earth, Chen said. But don't worry. We're not like you. We're not going to kill your children. We're just going to make sure you can never kill ours again. The human fleet spread out across the system with terrifying precision. They moved like a pack of wolves, each ship knowing exactly where to go without needing orders. This wasn't a battle formation. This was a hunt. The first target was the orbital shipyards where Valorian warships were constructed. Human missiles tore through the massive structures, turning them into expanding clouds of debris. Workers evacuated in escape pods and the human ships let them go. They weren't targeting people. They were targeting capability. Next came the weapon production facilities on Prima's 3 moons. Railgun fire reduced the factories to molten craters. Centuries of weapons manufacturing capacity disappeared in minutes. The planetary defense grid was already offline thanks to human sabotage, but the humans destroyed it anyway. Every satellite, every missile platform, every gun emplacement that protected Prima from attack was systematically eliminated. Zelak watched in horror as his world's defenses were stripped away like layers of an onion. He sent desperate messages to the Council fleet begging for help. But the Council ships were scattered across dozens of systems, dealing with their own infrastructure failures. Nobody was coming to save Prima. In orbit around the planet, Sarah Chen watched the destruction with mixed feelings. Part of her felt sick at what she was doing. These were the same shipyards where she had trained with Valorian officers. The same factories that had produced the gifts Earth received during first contact. But another part of her remembered watching her fleet die at Proxima Station. Remembered seeing Earth cities burn. Remembered the screams on the communications channels as millions died. Captain, all military targets destroyed, her weapons officer reported. The planet is defenseless. Sarah activated the planetary broadcast system. Every screen on Prima would show her face. Every Valorian citizen would hear her words. People of Prima, this is Captain Sarah Chen of Earth. Your military has been destroyed. Your defenses are gone. You are completely helpless. We could exterminate your species right now and there's nothing you could do to stop us. She paused. But we won't. Because unlike your leaders, we don't believe in genocide. We're going to leave you alive to think about what you've done. You tried to cage humanity. You murdered our people. This is the result. She ended the transmission and turned to her crew. Set course for the Sethrak Collective. Let's go visit our other friends. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out at the Sethrak homeworld. Their automated defense grid, upgraded with human technology, turned against them. Or rather, it did nothing at all. The humans had installed backdoors in the code, kill switches that would render the entire system useless. The Sethrak ships tried to mount a defense, but they faced the same problem the Council fleet had encountered at Earth. Human tactics made no sense to them. The humans didn't follow proper military doctrine. They didn't form defensive lines or maintain proper spacing. They swarmed. They attacked from unexpected angles. They used suicide runs to take out larger ships. They fought like animals, not soldiers. A human destroyer called the Retribution rammed a Sethrak battlecruiser at full speed, its captain broadcasting one final message before impact. For Sydney. The battlecruiser broke in half. Another human ship, badly damaged and venting atmosphere, locked onto a Sethrak carrier and engaged its self-destruct. The explosion consumed both vessels. The human captain's last words were, "For Mumbai." The Sethrak fleet broke. They had never faced an enemy willing to die to win. Their military philosophy was based on preserving ships and lives, on fighting efficiently and retreating when the cost became too high. Humans didn't retreat. Humans kept coming even when they were dying. It wasn't courage. It was fury. It was rage given form and purpose. The Sethrak orbital installations fell just like the Valorian ones. Shipyards destroyed. Weapons factories reduced to rubble. Defense platforms turned into scrap metal. The Sethrak Collective, one of the most powerful species in the Council, was reduced to a helpless civilization in the span of 6 hours. The Thal ascendancy lasted even less time. Their shield stations, which humanity had upgraded just 2 years ago, refused to activate. The Thal military command tried emergency overrides, backup systems, even manual controls. Nothing worked. The humans had been thorough. Sarah Chen delivered the same message to all 3 worlds. We could kill you. We choose not to. Learn from this. But the real message was unspoken and clear. Humanity is not your friend anymore. Humanity is what you feared we would become, and you have no one to blame but yourselves. The war fleet regrouped at a rally point between the 3 devastated homeworlds. Sarah pulled up a tactical map, showing the current state of Council space. Dozens of species were experiencing massive infrastructure failures. Military production had ground to a halt. Communication between worlds was spotty at best. And now 3 of the Council's founding species were defenseless, their military capability shattered. Captain, her communications officer, said, "We're receiving hundreds of transmissions from other Council species. They're begging us to stop. Some are offering alliances. Some are threatening to unite against us." Sarah almost laughed. "Tell them we'll stop when we're sure Earth is safe. As for their threats, they can look at Prima, Sethrak, and Thal Prime and ask themselves if they really want to fight us." Admiral Okoro's face appeared on her screen. "Captain Chen, excellent work. The Council is in chaos. Their founding species are out of the war permanently. The other species are too scared to move." "What now, sir?" Sarah asked. "Now we go home," Okoro replied. "We've made our point. The galaxy knows what happens when you threaten humanity. Let them think about that for a while." "They'll rebuild eventually," Sarah pointed out. "This isn't over." "No, it's not," Okoro agreed. "But it'll take them decades to recover. And by then Earth will be even stronger. We'll make sure no one ever catches us unprepared again." The war fleet turned toward Earth, leaving 3 broken civilizations in their wake. On Prima, Valorian leaders surveyed the ruins of their military and wept. On the Sethrak homeworld, citizens huddled in their homes, terrified that the humans would return to finish the job. On Thal Prime, the government collapsed as riots broke out. The Galactic Council held an emergency session, but it was pointless. The Council was dead. The founding species were crippled. The remaining species were too busy dealing with sabotage and infrastructure failures to coordinate any kind of response. Humanity had won the war in 3 days. But the real question was what would happen next. Would the galaxy unite against humanity? Would there be peace? Would Earth become a conqueror or a protector? Sarah Chen looked at the stars and wondered what kind of future they had created. They had survived. They had proven their strength. But at what cost? And what would humanity become now that it had tasted victory?